We plan for our neediest population, then we're planning for all students. And that's what our focus should be, planning for all. And all means all.
You're listening to the NAESP Principal Podcast, where school leaders connect around real challenges, real experiences, and real growth. In today's episode, Supporting Students with Disabilities, What Principals Need to Know About IDEA, Principal Equetta Jones talks with experts from the LEAD IDEA Center about what it takes to lead schools where every student belongs and succeeds. This conversation offers insight and practical strategies you can put to work right away. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to the NAESP Principal Podcast. I am your host for the day, and my name is Equetta Jones, and I'm the proud principal of Love Creek Elementary School, located in Lewis, Delaware. Today, I have some awesome guests with me. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we are going to get started.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Dia Jackson. I co-lead the Knowledge Development Team for LEAD IDEA from the American Institutes for Research, and I have a background in special education.
Hi, I am Dena Slanda, and I am the lead of our intensive technical assistance, which is just a fancy way of saying professional learning at the LEAD IDEA Center. And I have a background in special education as well as leadership preparation. And I'm just really excited to be here to talk to you all today.
We are super excited to be on this journey with you both together. And so let's get started. So why are principals so important for students with disabilities success?
You know, Equetta, I'm so glad that you asked that question. We know that our principals are uniquely positioned to create the conditions that are necessary for students with disabilities to thrive. Their leadership has a great influence over every aspect of the school environment, and that translates into school culture and how they shape those welcoming and responsive environments where students with disabilities and their families feel valued and feel like they're a real integral member of the school community. They also influence instructional quality, so setting those really high expectations for high quality, differentiated instruction that is aligned with students' needs, including our students with disabilities, individualized education programs. They also set the vision and expectations. So when we think about principals who are holding high expectations for our students with disabilities, that translates to teachers and members of the community and other staff who will also have those same high expectations for all their learners, including students with disabilities. We know that they're more likely to lead schools where students make meaningful academic and behavioral progress when they have high expectations for all the students. And then finally, they have such a great influence over those systems of support. We know that effective leaders prioritize the systems that promote student well-being, responsive instruction, and strong special education practices. I'm going to go ahead and just point us to what the literature says. So in 2021, the Wallace Foundation released a comprehensive report that synthesized 2 decades of research on school leadership. And in that meta-analysis, which was co-authored by Jason Grissom, it revealed that the impact of effective principals has been significantly underestimated. In fact, the key findings from this report show that principals influence more than just academic outcomes. Their leadership is linked to improved teacher satisfaction and retention. So when we think about why teachers stay, it's really because they don't work for schools, they work for principals. And that is what gets them to stay and feel good in their work. And it sets the tone for working conditions as well. It actually also increases student attendance because students also feel like they're in a welcoming environment and that they're part of that school community. So they want to show up, they want to come to school. We also know, which is really of increased importance, especially today, is that it reduces exclusionary discipline practices. And then finally, when we think about school performance overall, our leaders have such a great impact on school performance and outcomes for all students, but especially students with disabilities.
So I hear what you're saying, especially about the work of a principal. We know that when the principal sneezes, the whole school catches a cold. So we make or break what happens. And it is so true. I say that to my staff so often. You don't leave a building, you leave a principal. And so the impact we have is phenomenal, and we shouldn't take that for granted. You know, we, especially our neediest population, I believe if we plan for our neediest population, then we're planning for all students. And that's what our focus should be, planning for all. And all means all. And every scholar is a general education student before they're anything else. So good to have this conversation. So could you share how school leaders are prepared to do this work?
Sure, that's a really great question. Um, the majority of school leaders have actually expressed a lack of preparation in special education content. So we know from the literature, there was a 2021 study by RAND of 3,500 principals, and only 12% of principals said that they were prepared to lead supporting the needs of students with disabilities. So that's a really surprisingly low amount of principals who were prepared. We also found in our own research that this lack of preparation was found among principals as well currently. So last year at the United Conference, we conducted focus groups. And we were able to speak with almost 40 principals at both the elementary and the secondary levels. And the first question that we asked them was around leadership preparation. We asked them to tell us how they were prepared and what their preparation included around special education and educating students with disabilities. And principals reported that their preparation overwhelmingly had little or no coursework related to training in implementing IDEA. So principals responded overwhelmingly that they did not receive adequate training on special education law and procedures in their leadership preparation. One elementary principal actually said, there was zero preparation in my leadership classes. I went through 2 master's programs for education, and neither one of them touched on anything special ed related when it came to the leadership role and building that capacity. So we know that that is really a gap for principals. Many principals expressed using on-the-job training and really relying heavily on their special education staff and teachers. So there really is an information gap for leaders when it comes to leading schools that are spaces of belonging and achievement for students with disabilities.
So I'm excited to say I'm a part of the 12% that are prepared. You know, often I giggle because I say all of my degrees are in special education. So my undergrad was special education, master's cross categorical special education, doctorate in organizational leadership with the emphasis of special education. And so, you know, I believe when you're passionate about something, that is where your focus begins. And I so often get to hear my staff say they appreciate being in a building with a leader who has that background because they've never had anyone that plans for our most vulnerable populations first. So talking to my colleagues, I'm appreciative of the center and the work that you're doing to help to grow us and help us to be able to better advocate for our scholars and also their families and the people that are teaching them in the classrooms. And so going into that, what are the biggest special education challenges facing principals today?
Another great question. So through Lead IDEA, we have gathered stakeholder feedback in a variety of ways. One way is that we have an open survey on the Lead IDEA website where any principal or school leader can give us their feedback and tell us about their most pressing IDEA challenges. Another way that we collect feedback is through focus groups. So, as I mentioned earlier, we held focus groups last year with principals, and the top 5 challenges between focus groups and the surveys that we have online were clarifying staff roles and responsibilities, staff mindsets around students with disabilities, staffing, workforce challenges, and hiring, which we know that all leaders across the country are really having challenges with. Family engagement and behavior challenges were the last 2. So, in terms of workforce, we know that there's nationally a shortage of qualified special education teachers. So, that was one of the areas that was absolutely overwhelmingly the number one challenge for school leaders. Not only finding special education teachers, but finding highly qualified special education teachers. And then right below that was staff roles and responsibilities. So leaders really expressed having difficulty explaining to staff what their role was as the general educator versus the role of the special educator, and how to best organize those resources and have those educators collaborate. So, as you said, so that they can plan for students with disabilities ahead of time. And then the third highest area was staff mindset about students with disabilities and collaboration. So many leaders remarked that staff mindsets concerning student belonging and beliefs around shared ownership when educating students with disabilities were one of the most challenging areas for them. So really getting at that idea that you already expressed of that these are all of our students, that all of our students are general education students first. That mindset is really, really critical because it drives behavior and it drives practice. And it really drives how staff collaborate together. So that mindset carries over into how teachers interact with each other and how teachers interact with students, and it directly impacts students' sense of belonging in schools. And we know that belonging and engagement, particularly for students with disabilities, is especially critical to their success in school.
So I love how you focused on the word engagement. So often we walk into our classrooms, we're seeing compliance. I have an IEP and it is written, and I met with this student for this amount of minutes. However, are we really engaging the learner? Are we just writing goals because we know that they can be mastered, or are we just writing goals and everyone in the classroom has the same goal? Does the leader coming in the classroom really understand what the IEP, what the programming is, what the delivery model should be? And so having this opportunity and understanding the research is very important, because I feel like for me, a lot of my colleagues aren't even aware of the deficits that we may have leading schools, where every school is the one situation where no matter where you are, you're going to have a child with a unique need. And so having the center to be able to provide the resources and things, I'm sure we'll get into later, is very valuable. But I'm very just excited about the conversation and where we're going to go.
As this conversation shows, strong IDEA leadership helps create schools where every student feels they belong. That same focus on belonging is front and center in the NAESP September-October 2025 issue of Principal Magazine. Here are just a few other NAESP member principals from across the country describing what belonging means in their schools.
Student belonging to me means students have ownership in their learning. The school that I serve at constantly look to find ways to make sure kids feel like they're an active part of their learning, or not just something that happens to them, but actually they have voice, agency, purpose.
Top of mind for me is to make sure that the moment that our children, our staff, our families, the moment that they're walking through our building, they know, they know that they're welcome. They know that we see them. They know that we value them.
Student belonging means that all of my students feel connected to my school, and not just the school as a building, but connected to the individuals, the teachers, and all of the staff members that work with them on a daily basis. I'm a big advocate of building rapport with our students, and not just the students, but the parents as well. And I want my school to feel like a extension of the students' family. So I want them to feel like when they're at school, they're at home and they belong there.
If you've ever felt underprepared to lead special education in your school, you're not alone. Most principals step into the role without formal IDA training, and yet they're expected to lead this work every day. That's why NESP offers a growing library of tools and resources, from professional learning to practical leadership guidance, all designed to help you support every student. You can explore these anytime by visiting nesp.org and searching for special education in the Resource Hub. Now, back to the conversation with Principal Equetta Jones and the Lead IDEA Center.
So we talked a little bit about the research, but tell us a little bit more about what the research says about strong solutions for addressing those challenges.
That's a great question. So Dena did share some of those challenges earlier. But what we know is that school leadership is really critical in appropriately including students with disabilities in early childhood programs in schools. We know that organization leaders must understand special education law and practices to ensure compliance with IDEA and the provision of a free and appropriate public education. And we know that effective leaders facilitate IEP development, they support teachers, and they engage families to address these special education needs. So given that leadership is so crucial, we know that leaders really need a comprehensive training model to understand what those laws are, how to implement them, and how to really work through the complexities of special education policies and best practices. Without this training, leaders really are going to struggle, and they may struggle to create a learning environment where all students are able to succeed. So, this comprehensive training and support for leaders ensures that all children receive a high quality education. So, this training will equip them with the skills and necessary support for an environment that is effective to improve outcomes for students with disabilities. So, what we did at the Lead IDEA Center was we looked through the literature to find this information on what does make a principal effective in supporting students with disabilities. And surprisingly, this framework did not exist. So, what we did was we looked at the literature on both leadership development and special education leadership development. And we were able to synthesize that research. So we aim to develop a framework for professional development that enhances leaders' skills and knowledge in supporting children with disabilities. We conducted 2 systematic environmental scans of frameworks and documents between the years of 2014 and 2024. And we identified and reviewed educational leadership frameworks and associated documents. And then we looked at all of that information and compiled it into an online tool where we were able to look across these different frameworks to see what they had in common. We examined how competencies were presented and how they were measured, what metrics were used to evaluate competency acquisition. The second scan focused on documents specifically addressing special education, disability, and effective leadership in early childhood settings and schools. And then both scans revealed key topics for effective school leaders of students with disabilities, including strategic planning, areas like evidence-based practices, family collaboration, as well as advocacy and data-driven decision-making. So, by synthesizing these 2 bodies of research, we were able to develop a framework That was then presented to organizational leaders during focus groups. And we were allowed them to give us feedback on this framework to tell us, does this really land with your role as a principal? So on our website, you can find our 6 essentials of IDEA leadership. These essentials are professional, legal, and ethical practices, vision setting and strategic leadership, family and community engagement, institutional leadership, which is operations, systems, and resources, educator, provider supports, and then the last one is instruction and intervention leadership. So these are our 6 essentials that our training is based on. And we have heard from principals that this is exactly what they need to fill that gap so that they can support students with disabilities effectively.
So I will say, I know the principals are listening and say, did they really talk to anyone? Well, audience, yes, yes, yes. I am one of those people who is considered a leader in the field. And yes, they really did take the time to see what will work for us as practitioners. And also, I will say I appreciate the thoughtfulness of, the center and the fact of valuing our time, because a lot of times as leaders, people are like, oh, which we do. We work 24/7. But I can honestly say you all have taken the time to really listen to us. And everything is a quick read or a quick video, or, really you valued our feedback and you heard what we needed as leaders to help us to get better, to serve our students with disabilities and their families, and also the educators that are working along with them. So yes, audience, this is not one of those fake things. They really did have some consultation from actual practitioners that are actually doing the work. And so I am grateful for that. Well, let's get into some other things, because now we're hearing all the research and we are very appreciative and we realize where the gaps are. Tell us a little bit of how the center equips leaders with proven research-backed supports to meet those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm so happy that you're asking that question, because one, making sure that we're bridging theory to practice is really important. And so recognizing, as we had stated before, what's in the literature, but then also what Dia and the knowledge development team from the center found in our focus groups and the need sensing that we do on our website and through other means, just conversations while we're here at the United Conference or while we're at different conferences around the country. We're really seeing that high quality principal preparation programs are required, right? We need to ensure that those are done in a way where that's also not siloed. We also know that ongoing professional learning, particularly in instructional leadership, is important. But we also need to make sure that there's an intentional focus on and responsive practices that support students with disabilities and their families. And that's essentially what Dia was referring to with those leadership essentials that we have identified. And so those leadership essentials really create the foundation for a lot of the resources that we have developed and that we are making universally available to everyone. So if you visit our website, you'll come across lots of resources that are beneficial to leaders, to states, to districts, including, our navigators, which are interactive toolkits that lead principals through scenarios and through solutions. We have 2 that are up on the website and available, and we'll continue to add as we continue to hear about what those most pressing problems are that our principals are facing in their schools. And, we ensure that leaders have access to resources such as podcasts like these, or to articles or modules, professional learning modules that they can interact with that are self-directed and they can do on time that is responsible and flexible to their needs. We're developing job aids that will also be housed on our website. But then we also know that some of our leaders really want to learn from the center directly through professional learning opportunities, or have the opportunity to engage with other leaders around the country to see what is happening in your school, what is happening in your district, what's happening in your state, and how are you ensuring that students with disabilities and their families are feeling like they're a really strong part of a community. And so we provide professional learning, again, that is responsive to those needs and the types of touch points that everyone is looking for. So we have a leadership academy that is designed to meet the needs of our leaders. It is responsive. It is very intensive in the sense that it's year-long. It provides ongoing coaching that is individualized. It provides supports and workshops, and an opportunity to network with a nationwide cohort that is likely experiencing very similar issues to what they would be experiencing themselves. We also provide professional learning that is responsive to the field. So when we think about what we refer to as our field-initiated requests, that is when a district or a school reaches out to us and says, these are what we're experiencing. And so we can come and use some of our diagnostic tools that we also have available to assess, one, the individual capacity of the leader. So what do you as a leader, what knowledge and skills and mindsets have you already mastered? But then also, what are some areas where you could professionally grow to continue that ongoing reflective practice and ongoing learning that we know we all engage in? And so we use those to really give us data to determine where we can focus some of our efforts in professional learning so that it does become targeted and individualized to your needs as well. And then we have communities of practice. And those communities of practice, again, provide opportunities for everyone to engage together and meet with each other and, around a specific topic and to learn from one another. But all of that is grounded in the leadership essentials that Dia referred to before.
So if any of our listeners are just kind of like, I am intrigued, where would you tell them to start?
Well, one thing I just want to add is that all of this professional learning is completely free. It is of no cost to schools and districts, and that they can access this information online on our LEAD IDEA website, which is lead, lead-idea.org. Dena, do you want to share more about how they can?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great place, right, Dia? If they go to our website, everything is there. You can sign up for our newsletters. You can see what types of academies or communities of practice that we're offering. All of it is available to you. And I love that you brought up that this is available at no cost. Because we are a federally funded center, we provide these resources on our website for you to interact with. We do the professional learning at no cost to those who participate, because we want to make sure that we are building our leaders, and their success is so important to the students that we serve across the nation in different communities. And so, again, I was referring earlier to like our navigators. They can interact with those tools on their own time. Our modules are also available on the website that help guide through our first set or around IDEA 101. We know that a lot of our leaders have said, I really wish I had a stronger understanding of IDEA. So when I am in an IEP meeting or when I am working with families, I can actively contribute, but also confidently contribute. And so the first navigator is around, special education, special educator retention. And then our second navigator that is also available is around strengthening services for students with disabilities. And both of those really emphasize the role that the principal, assistant principal, or the early intervention leader plays in ensuring that we have the right systems in place to support.
Yeah. So that was one thing I was going to point out. We know our listeners are from ranging positions. And so I want to reference that anytime we speak of principal, we are talking assistant principal or principal or, instructional leader, because this work is important to all of us. And then also, I just want to say to everyone, it's all about the money. So we know we very seldom have money in our budgets, but free 99 listeners, free 99. And so with us having the relationship with Lead IDA Center and in collaboration with NESP, we also offer opportunities at do our communities of practice. And then you've been to our early career principals practice and then also our assistant principals practice. And so knowing that this is truly a work of love and a work of kids, and knowing that this is not a opportunity that is outside of the scope and sequence of the work we do is very important, because sometimes one thing that I've been sharing is this is a collaborative work. So many times we do things in isolation and then the principal is like, which way do I go? You don't have to worry about this, because we all are practitioners and we are working together to do what's best for our students with disabilities. And so is there anything else that you think is important for our leaders to know about the center or the work that we're doing or that you're doing and that we're providing counsel with?
Yeah, just wanted to add to what you were saying about it's all of our work, and how principals have to make that decision about where do I go to find this information. All of the information that we just talked about, it is at no cost, and it's also of high quality. So all of our staff on the center are highly educated staff with doctorate degrees and decades of experience in special education specifically. So when you're looking across all of the information that's out there and available to you, you can rely on our expertise and the work that is provided by the center, and know that it is the latest and most high quality research-based information.
Absolutely. And as I'm thinking about this, I know that oftentimes as a principal, we're really focused on compliance and the significance of compliance. And what I love about our center is that we go beyond compliance. The compliance is the floor. It is not the ceiling. And so we start to think about mindsets and knowledge and skill that allow us to, one, yes, we're going to learn compliance, but we're going to move beyond that. And we're going to learn about different ways that we can create these systems and these cultures that really allow students with disabilities and their families to thrive. And that is what I think is really unique and wonderful about our center. We have individuals with leadership experience, with special education experience. So we have a connection, a very strong connection with practitioners. And to the point that you had made earlier about, do we really listen? Absolutely. We ensure that not only, are we developing materials that are practitioner-based, but that we continue to refine those materials. The more that we are learning and engaging, the more that we are able to ensure that these materials are very responsive to your needs. I know sometimes, we had talked about that disconnect, right? And we want to make sure that everything is very connected. And it's something that you can learn today and then take into your school and implement on Monday.
And the one thing I will say that I personally enjoy about the Navigator is when I share with other colleagues is I may be at one place and you may be at another, but both of or all of our needs are met with this. So it's a growth opportunity no matter where you are in your career, no matter where you are in your knowledge base. And it just makes you better. And so everyone knows that I always sing. So I'm going to tell the audience, you are not alone. We are here with you. Though you're far away, we are here to stay. You have to join us so that we can become better together. Is there anything that you want to say as we get ready to close out?
Thank you for all that you do, principals. We are here to support you.
I love that. Absolutely. Thank you to all the principals, assistant principals, instructional leaders out there, because everything that you do every day matters.
So as we close out our lovely podcast, remember that you matter, you are important, and our scholars would not be who they are without you. And though there are needs, we always have people there to fill them and fill us. Have a great rest of your day, no matter what time it is, morning, noon, or night.
To explore the LEAD IDEA Center's free research-backed leadership tools, visit lead-idea.org. You'll find professional learning modules, job aids, and coaching opportunities, all designed to support your work as a school leader. The NAESP Principal Podcast is produced by the National Association of Elementary School Principals. Learn more about our community and membership at NAESP.org. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the NAESP Principal Podcast and share it with a colleague. We're in this together, and every conversation helps us grow stronger.